And the news is here. Yeah, and the news is here.
Good morning to those of you in our sanctuary and to those who might be viewing us online. My name is Jim Newtown, and I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Flint, a progressive religious community to which people are free to be themselves without fear. If you would like more information about our faith tradition or this congregation, please feel free to talk to one of our ministers today, Reverend Lynn and Reverend Jerry, who's roaming around someplace, or via their contact information that may be found at uuflint.org. Or if you're the passive type like me, there are small cards at the back of the sanctuary and at the welcome table in the entryway that answer the question, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? And that lists our 7 principles and 6 sources. If you are a visitor and interested in receiving our weekly email newsletter, you may sign up at our website, scan the QR code on the back of your service, I don't know which one, or complete the cards in the seat backs that you will find in the sanctuary. That just puts you on our e-list. No one will bother you unless you ask. So please see the back of the order of service. For announcements, I'd like to quickly highlight just 2. This coming Friday is our Tales and Tunes fundraiser. Sandra Murphy? Yeah. Yes. Or yes, sure. She's in charge of it.
Thanks, Jim. I'm one of a crew. I'm not in charge. I gave that up a long time ago. So this Friday, 6 to 9, our 3rd annual Friend and Fundraising event will be held here down in Nelson Hall. Bring your lawn chair, and if you would prefer an adult beverage, bring your own. We will be selling snacks and non-alcoholic drinks throughout the evening. We're going to have great fun. Our DJ this year is our own Bob Olson. He'll be playing some of our favorite tunes. For those of us who want to dance, we can dance. There will be a raffle silent auction happening throughout the evening. And today during coffee hour, I will have the booklet of over 50 items that have been donated that you'll be able to review prior to the event. The raffle is the same as last year. We're selling $1 raffle tickets and $5 raffle tickets. And then what you do is you just put your raffle ticket in the jar, buy the item that you want. So if you really want that item, you will put in as many raffle tickets as it will hold, right? And then hopefully you're going to get it. The other thing that I want you to know is that we've got a return of some of the favorite items. Ruth Strauss cinnamon rolls are going to be there. The Tales and Tune parking sign is going to be up for grabs, so make sure that you sign up for that. We have UU Adventures, the walking tour of Flint. There's the Ron Kruger tribute that will be available through Karen Anway and her husband's place on the lake, and many, many other things. So stop by and pick up a booklet. I'm still in need of a couple of volunteers to help sell the raffle tickets on that evening. So if you're interested, I can give you an hour, hour and a half stint so that you're not locked in there all night long. So come and bring a friend. Thank you, Jim.
The other announcement I want to emphasize is that the congregation, by voting, picked Frederick Douglass. I already forgot the subtitle. Yes. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning novel. No, not a novel, biography of Frederick Douglass. Next week's service is going to be focused on information in that book, and then there will be a book study club that will be meeting Wednesdays, the 17th and the 24th at 6 o'clock. It'll be meeting, be meeting in person and on Zoom also.
Jim,
Yes.
can I add that the author is a Flint product? He graduated from Flint Central, one of the two Blight brothers who were star athletes and good guys.
And went to Potter School.
So, yes, thank you. I'd forgotten that. Okay. Chalice lighting. Today we light our chalice in honor of our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of existence, of all existence, of which we are a part. No? Thank you. I always forget this. So I would welcome you in join me in reciting our covenant, recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service. We gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullest faith, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice. Our opening words are from Oren Lyons, chief of the Onondaga Nation, who wrote, "We are looking ahead, as is one of the first mandates given us as chiefs, to make sure and to make every decision that we make relates to the welfare and well-being of the seventh generation to come. What about the seventh generation? Where are you taking them? What will they have?" If you will join us now in hymn 1031.
And we'll sing hymn 1021, May I Be Filled with Loving Kindness.
10:31.
10:30.
Nice to see so many people here today on this great morning. I'm looking so forward to the service and the message. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be whole. Well, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. Thank you. Please be seated.
Now we're going to have our meditation. I will give a few directions, suggestions I will give you in just a minute. And while we're doing that, we're going to tweak this just a bit. If you have after I give you a few words, then we'll have a few moments of quiet meditation. While we're having that quiet meditation, if you have a joy or concern and would like to light a candle, either at the front of the church or at the back, you're welcome to. And if you would like to share that with our congregation, there's also books at the back of the congregation where you can write it down and will be placed in our e-update. So, don't need to, but I would encourage you to close your eyes for a few minutes if you wish. In times of stress, we are often encouraged to imagine ourselves in a happy place. Today, I would like to encourage you to close your eyes for a few minutes and think of a happy place in nature. Maybe a place or trail in the woods, or beside a body of water, such as a stream, a river, a lake, maybe even one of our Great Lakes. Maybe some place you regularly visit, or someplace special while on a vacation. Perhaps a vista where you could see for miles. Now remember how you felt at the time. Remember what your reaction was to the beauty and wonder of the location. For a few minutes, dwell in that place and think mentally and emotionally. Maybe there was a quiet or nature sound, maybe even smells. For the next few minutes, let's focus on those memories. For our reading, for our reading today, I'd like to read you the words of General Antonio Guterres, who is the UN Secretary General. These are the words that he gave at the closing of the Climate Ambition Summit just last September, September 20th of last year. Dear friends, I'll be very brief. You have already heard me yesterday in the General Assembly and this morning in the opening of our work. But this started as the Climate Ambition Summit, and I believe it ends as the Climate Hope Summit. And indeed, if something was clearly proven by all the testimonies that we heard today from governments, from regions, from cities, from companies, from asset owners, it is that the 1.5 degrees limit is possible to be achieved. We are not talking about a dream. We are talking about something that can be real if we mobilize all our energies to make it happen. Now, the conditions are not fully met. Clearly they weren't. We are in many respects even moving backwards. I was in the G20. I was quite disappointed by what the G20 concluded about climate, because the geopolitical divides are still not allowing for what must be an historic compromise between developed economies and emerging economies that are the biggest emitters. To be able to come together, respecting the principle of common, differentiated responsibilities, but all recognizing that they need to do more, and they need to do more together. Putting together their resources, and especially the technological resources that allow for the transition, to accelerate the transition that is required. Of course, it's still true that many fossil fuel companies, asset owners, and other companies that seem to be betting and investing in the same logic as those that in the beginning of the 20th century were betting and investing in horse-drawn carriages, thinking that will guarantee their maximum profits. And it is also true that many of us, believing in the need for climate change, are not yet doing enough when we look into our own carbon footprints. So we are not yet there. But what has happened during this day is that a meaningful number of countries are already fully aligning their policies with the 1.5 degrees goal. What we have seen today is that there are regions and cities that are already aligning their policies, their strategies, their investments with the 1.5 degrees limit. What we have seen today is that there are companies and there are asset owners and other financial institutions that are already aligning their strategies or their portfolios with a 1.5 degree strategy. And if these first doers and first movers can do it, everybody can do it. We need to create the right environment. We need to create, as it was said, the right ecosystem. But it is possible to do it. Now, it's not going to be easy. But everything that really matters needs a lot of fighting to be able to get there. So to all the first doers that are here today, and I think now it's a matter of doing, I'd say scale up. Bring together all of those that you can bring together with you. Go for it. Take no prisoners.
I'm going to share a song by May Earlywine. And the one line that I take away from this is that, as far as saving our planet, we get overwhelmed sometimes because it's a big task. And a line in this song, she's talking to the wind, and the wind says, "Don't do it all, just do something." And so the song is called Please. Oh, that was the wrong chord to start on. Sorry about that. I held that stone in the palm of my hand, walking alone on the shore of Lake Michigan. And I swear the earth let out a sigh of relief as the waves broke and washed over my feet. The wind, she came and whispered to me, the earth is tired, it's been a long century. And I said, what can I do? I am only just me. She said, don't do it all, just do something, please, please. For 63 years I've been alive, and I've watched things change right before my eyes. We took what we wanted, gave nothing in return, so that the future generations were left with nothing but to crash and burn. Now where will our children go to find a bit of pure water and peace of mind? There's so much to do, you might not live to see the change, but I'm counting on you to do something, please, please. Now I hold that stone close to my chest as I walk back down the shore just before sunset. And I swear the earth took in a breath of hope. The sky turned red as I walked home. The wind, she came, and as she went by, she said, carry that stone and remember to try, please, 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 please.
Thank you. That was very moving. I have the pleasure today of introducing our speaker, Laura Mebert. She has a long, interesting academic history. There's some flyers at the back if you'd like to go into details. I'm not going to relist them, but very impressive. So it's a great pleasure. She is currently a staff attorney for our Children's Trust. Oh, maybe she'll tell us a little bit at some point as to how she got there, and I'm sure what she's doing and what our Children's Trust is doing. So, Laura?
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today. It means a lot to be here with you. I grew up in this church. Some of you know my parents, Paul and Cheryl Jordan. When I was invited to speak here today, I was told, and of course I already knew because I know how social justice oriented you are, that you care about climate change. And I was also told that you could use a reason for hope. My work as a staff attorney at our Children's Trust fills me with hope. And I hope that by the end of my time with you today, that their work will fill you with hope too. Our Children's Trust is a nonprofit public interest law firm that provides strategic, campaign-based legal representation to youth from diverse backgrounds to secure their legal rights to a safe climate. We only sue the government. We only sue about climate change. And we do not sue them for money. We sue them for recognition of children's legal rights to a safe climate and for a change in behavior regarding fossil fuels. Why do we do that? The current generation of children is growing up. I'll tell you why we do it in a second. My clicker isn't working. Oops, sorry. I have a nice chart I want to show you. That's why it's worth the wait. There we go. Thank you very much. Wonderful. So why do we do that? The current generation is growing up in a world that is very different from the world that any of us in this room grew up in. What you see up here is called the Keeling curve. This is the measure of atmospheric concentrations of carbon dioxide as measured at the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii. So as you know, carbon dioxide is a heat-trapping gas. So when the energy from the sun hits it, it traps heat in our Earth's atmosphere, and that's what causes climate change. And the specific carbon dioxide that is accumulating in our atmosphere is caused by burning fossil fuels, and we know that because of the specific isotopes of carbon dioxide that are found in the atmosphere. So carbon dioxide is measured in parts per million. And as I hope you can see here, that in 1960, so on the far left side, the lowest number is 1960, the year. The atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide was below 320 parts per million. It is now over 420 parts per million. That is a 100 part per million jump in carbon dioxide within the lifespan of most people in this room. That is a huge change in a very short amount of time. And as you can see, unfortunately, the direction of that curve is not only going up, it is bending a little bit upwards, which means that we're heading in the wrong direction. We need to bend this curve. So the point being for now that children who are growing up today are growing up with a very different atmosphere and hence a very different childhood than what any of us had with regard to the climate. Let's see. It's not working anymore. Can we get to the next slide, please? It is. It says on. Okay, well, that's all right. Oh, we have. Wonderful. Thank you. So they have a very different childhood than we did, especially in the western half of the country. Summers are now smoke season. Children cannot play outside for weeks at a time because of the smoke. Because of the smoke also, there is more asthma, and the reason being because children's lungs are still developing and hence more vulnerable to developing respiratory illnesses. Children are also having to evacuate their homes repeatedly during a single childhood, whether it's due to wildfires or due to hurricanes. There are also children now who are losing their family home repeatedly during their childhood for these reasons. One example is Kaliko, who is a plaintiff in our Hawaii case. Kaliko lost her home a couple years ago due to a flood from a hurricane, and then last summer she lost her family home again. And if the video works, she's going to tell you about that in her own words.
My dad called and I could just blankly hear that like the house is gone and then he's safe, but like everything's gone. That's all I heard, so I was kind of like panicking. Then my auntie picked me up. We went back to her house. My mom was there. She's trying to call everybody, make sure they're safe because it was bigger than she thought. And in the morning, I looked on my phone because I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how big this fire is. And the first post I saw on the social medias was Lahaina town is gone. It was really crazy to see how that can happen in such a small time. So I think climate change does definitely take a big part in these natural disasters. Like in 2018 when I lost my house in a flood, it was due to a tropical hurricane. Climate change definitely has something to do with the drastic changes in the weather. And in the fire that just happened, if we don't act now for climate change, we're only going to see more of these disasters, and that's not what I want for my future.
Because children today are growing up in a different reality from today's adults, or than the childhood that today's adults had, we're seeing a lot more youth environmental activism, especially around climate. And the reason for that is not because this generation loves Mother Earth more than grown-ups do, but it's out of necessity. Their future is being taken away from them. And these youth have tried to change the government's course on climate change. They have protested. They have lobbied their legislators. For example, one of our plaintiffs successfully lobbied his school district's school board to make some carbon lowering adjustments. He joined with other youth and they successfully lobbied their state legislature in a blue state to change state policies. And then they went to Washington, D.C. They came with the lowest possible ask for a non-binding resolution recognizing the serious mental health impacts of climate change on youth. And they met with Democratic representatives, not the Joe Manchins, the people that they expected would be on board. And their representatives said, "We personally support you, but we can't sign." And they basically sent them home with a pat on the head. They didn't try once, they tried several times. And they weren't the first to try. The government has had 50 to 60 years to solve this problem. So children are coming to the courts today as their last resort. They're coming to our Children's Trust as their hope. Now remember what you learned in school, that we have 3 branches of government. The legislative branch passes statutes. The executive branch is supposed to carry out the law. And they're both supposed to abide by the Constitution. And if those branches fail to respect people's rights under the Constitution, that's what we have the courts for. That's what our Children's Trust is doing. We are representing youth to hold the government accountable to win the change that the government has been too cowardly or too beholden to the status quo to make. We do it based on science. For example, did you know that the Paris climate target that you very often hear about and read about in the news, 1.5 degrees Celsius, that target is not based on science? Did you know that? Not many people do. Science measures, as you now know, because you've seen the Keeling curve, measures the climate change problem based on parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. 350 parts per million is the maximum safe limit of carbon in the atmosphere, beyond which we're setting in motion irreparable harms of increasing severity. 1.5 degrees Celsius, by contrast, is a political compromise that came out of negotiations where scientists were kicked out of. They were not allowed to participate, and that goal is unrelated to avoiding irreparable harm, which is what matters. So in our cases, we use 350 parts per million as the reference point. Another scientific truth is that our atmosphere can heal if we act fast. The climate crisis is a little bit like dropping a bowling ball in a swimming pool, where instead of being filled with water, the swimming pool is filled with Vaseline. So if you drop the bowling ball, you pass 350 parts per million, it will take a while to hit the bottom. So you do have some time to dive in to the swimming pool full of Vaseline and pull out the bowling ball. But you have to act relatively fast still. And it's the same with the climate's ability to heal itself. Also, in the courtroom, facts matter. It's not like in politics. Our cases bring to the courtroom world-class experts. We have more than one Nobel Prize winner who serves as an expert witness in our cases, serving pro bono because they believe so strongly in these science-based cases representing youth rights. We also represent youth because, and the reason why is because although they cannot vote for the politicians who are making the decisions about their future, they are the ones who are most affected by the climate crisis. And we don't just represent them. Being a plaintiff in these cases is an opportunity for youth to tell their story and to be heard fully by someone with the power to change things. And that experience of testifying, telling their story about how they are impacted by climate change is very powerful. It turns these young people's anger and frustration and despair into hope and empowerment. All of our cases are grounded in fundamental rights and in the government's duty to protect kids from irreparable harm. Remember, the whole purpose of the Constitution is, at least its structure, is checks and balances. When one branch violates people's rights, you can go to the courts for protection. For example, last summer, we took the state of Montana to court under Montana's constitution. And I'll let our plaintiffs tell you about that case. All this was recorded before and during the trial.
Believe that Montanans, regardless of party, regardless of where they're from, regardless of what they do, deserve to have this beautiful place that we all love so much.
Montana has a tradition of experiencing the outdoors, loving nature, and at the same time, a fossil fuel industry that is pushing in the other direction.
It will go down in history as the first ever constitutional climate trial. There's a big weight and responsibility that comes with that.
Not every state has a right to a clean and healthful environment in their constitution.
It's not about the government being wrong or these people being evil. It's about changing an unhealthy pattern of behavior that's harming Montana's people.
This trial is barely about our generation right now. We know it's about our futures, but it's about future generations too. We're fighting for them, not just us.
All these 16 youth plaintiff heroes are courageously leading us, speaking truth to power. They are here to save us from ourselves, because we, my friends, are handing them a mess.
I'm trying to protect this environment for future generations to come. You know, it's really scary to see what you care for disappear right in front of your eyes.
It's a photo of our property when the smoke has come into the valley and you can't see the mountains. It's horrifying.
I think every single one of us is here because we care about the future, and we want a future where our kids and our grandkids can grow up and be proud of what we did. We didn't shrink in the face of this threat. We stepped up to it.
I just think it's like a beautiful thing that all of us love Montana in different ways, and I want the judge to realize that more than anything.
I don't know if I can live in Bozeman or in the other towns in Montana that I know and love because of the uncertainty that they'll even exist in the same way that they do to me now, that they will in the future.
Like every time I come back home, it just feels so real, and I don't know how to explain it, but there's just cycles of life going on here, and it's not just on paper.
I think a lot of us working on this trial felt a huge responsibility to do it right. Governments are required to abide by the Constitution, and I think what that means on the ground is we'll start seeing governments, implement these rulings, and that means moving away from fossil fuels and moving towards renewable energy systems.
And we won. Now the state of Montana, a big coal state, cannot approve fossil fuel projects without considering the severe harm that climate change has on people in Montana, and that changes the equation. Montana also serves as a precedent for other cases to build on, which is great news because this June will be the second youth climate trial in history. It will take place in Hawaii. It is challenging the Hawaii State Department of Transportation's building and maintaining of a transportation infrastructure system that locks in fossil fuel-centric transportation. So these are state cases. We are also suing the federal government. We have 2 cases against the federal government. And the one I'm going to tell you about right now is Juliana versus United States. 21 youth plaintiffs in 2015, 9 years ago, this case has been going on 9 years, pre-trial, are challenging the United States' entire framework of subsidizing fossil fuels and authorizing fossil fuel extraction. So you can imagine how big of a case this is. In 2016, pre-trial on a motion to dismiss, which we survived. Well, I'll tell you more. I can tell you more about that in question answer if you want to know about the procedural history. It's very complicated. But in 2016, we can, the trial judge in that case, for the first time in history, acknowledged, and I don't have it written in front of me, so we're going to need this slide. Oops. Acknowledged for the first time in history, I have no doubt that the right to a climate system capable of sustaining human life is fundamental to a free and ordered society. You might remember what else happened in November of 2016. So Donald Trump's DOJ fought this case tooth and nail by using unprecedented extreme tactics to subvert the normal judicial process in this case, to try to stop this case about children's right to a livable climate from proceeding to trial. You'd think that Biden's DOJ would be different, but that's not the case. It has chosen to continue the Trump DOJ's strategy of using more extreme tactics in this kid's climate case than in any case in history. We are fighting the DOJ on this right now. The law is on our side. We are optimistic. And here's what you can do to help. So you're going to see a slide that you can take a picture of if you have a smartphone with you, and if you'd like to, in just a moment. There we go. Oopsie. If you go to this website, ourchildrenstrust.org/save-Juliana, there are lots of actions on that page you can take to support. The one we're plugging most heavily right now is we're having a rally in Washington, D.C. in front of the White House on April 21st. But if you can't make it there, tell your friends in D.C. or surrounding areas about it. And there are also, you can sign a petition. There's a whole list of actions you can take to support the Juliana case and help it go forward. Another thing you can do is sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter just keeps folks up to date about once a month on our cases, including cases that are about to be filed. And you'll also receive all of our upcoming calls to action to support our cases. And finally, you can donate. We are a small nonprofit funded largely from small donations. We serve these youth plaintiffs free of charge to them. And despite our success in winning legal protections from courts telling government it must abide by children's right to a stable climate, we don't have a lot of funding sources to choose from because our mission is focused on long-term impact, whereas a lot of big funders have more short-term goals or turnarounds. So a donation of any size is helpful. And I'm going to leave you with a poem by Reverend Dr. Polly Murray, a lawyer whose ideas inspired the NAACP's arguments in the Brown versus Board of Education case that outlawed segregation in schools. She wrote, "Hope is a crushed stalk between clenched fingers. Hope is a bird's wing broken by a stone. Hope is a word in a tuneless ditty, a word whispered with the wind, a dream of 40 acres and a mule, a cabin of one's own and a moment to rest, a name and a place for one's children, and children's children at last. Hope is a song in a weary throat. Give me a song of hope and a world where I can sing it. Give me a song of faith and a people to believe in it. Give me a song of kindliness and a country where I can live it. Give me a song of hope and love and a brown girl's heart to hear it. Thank you.
So we're gonna sing Blue Boat Home, and you can thank this song for Anne being here today because she loves this song. I won't cry. I'm not crying. I'm not crying. You're crying. I'm not crying. I'm not crying. Are you ready? 1064, the words are going to be up on this. We're not singing it in the same key, so if you're looking at, going to read the notes, we're not in the same key. So please stand as you're willing and able. Thank you so much. Thanks. I know, I'm slacking. Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Home, earth is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Thank you so much. Please be seated for question time.
No. We're going to go ahead and do a few closing things, and then there will be a question and answer period that Laura has agreed to answer any questions you might have, and for 10 or 15 minutes. If you wish to leave before then at any time, that's fine, but we'll have a question and answer period after our closing, and then later on, we're going to go downstairs and have a much less formal discussions or just talk over coffee, if anybody's interested, we can chat some more. So she'll join us downstairs too afterwards. Okay. Maya Angelou said, "I have found that among its other benefits, giving liberates the soul of the giver." Please consider making a gift to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Flint by placing your offering in the basket at the back of the sanctuary as you leave. Make a donation online at uuflint.org, or you may send a check to the office. All gifts of treasure, time, and talent are gratefully accepted. I'd like to close with the words of Al Gore, the former U.S. Vice President. Believe in the power of your own voice. The more noise you make, the more accountability you demand from your leaders, the more our world will change for the better. Join me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of warmth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. We carry in our hearts until we are together again. As I mentioned before, we're now going to have more of a more specific questions, facts, information. As Laura mentioned in her presentation, there's a lot more detail that she didn't get into, so if you have any questions, that's fine. Yes.
Yeah, Laura, three things very briefly. First of all, I assume we can go on a website, Act Now to Save Juliana, and find that information. Right? Website is available?
That is correct. Can you hear me? Okay. All right.
Second thing is, I don't know, we're on the precipice of an eclipse, which doesn't happen very often, and as I understand it, the temperature in eclipse zones are going to go down a bit, and somehow it seems appropriate to have this service just before the eclipse. But here's my question for you. I want to put you on the spot. I don't know how to feel about this subject in terms of optimism or pessimism. I read about it, I hear about it, so I'm going to ask you on a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being the most pessimistic, 10 being the most optimistic, where are you? You've studied this more than me, and why?
I'm going to fight the hypothetical because my feelings about this do not fit on a single scale. I think I would modify it and say that we have one axis of optimism and one axis of pessimism or worry, and they are both high. I am optimistic because what I see in this team of the people I work with are our children's trust. These lawyers, paralegals, scientists working on our team are brilliant. Every single one of them. Every single one of them is very, very, very good at their job. Our children's trust thinks strategically. They're very good about that. So they're making very, very smart choices at every stage of litigation. And seeing our success and how our successes are building on successes gives me a lot of optimism and hope. But I'm also very worried because there is so much at stake. Okay, because we haven't won the big change yet. Okay, and until we bend that curve and bring it down fast, there's still a lot at stake and a lot to do. So that's why I'm both optimistic and worried.
Thanks. And Laura, this may surprise you, but we like to boost on Facebook, so that means we pay a little extra and we get to advertise when we have someone big and important like you. And we tried to do that for you today. We would have had maybe even more people. Facebook would not let us do that because you are too political.
Wow, that surprises me because we're a nonprofit. We're not allowed to endorse a candidate.
Yes, that's right. But you were too political, and yeah, 3 times we tried. So
take it up with Mark.
Yeah.
Liz Dickinson happened to be flying on the same flight, your director of funding, coming back from New Zealand. It is a very small world, and both of us need to pay for our flight mile gas fuel, I think. She states that she increased funding by about 140% over her tenure. So I'm going to put in a pitch for everybody giving some money today or going online and doing so. I brought a check and I'll be writing one, even if it's just $5. If you've got just a few bucks, every penny counts. And this group deserves our support because it is a very creative and exciting but long thinking. Started, I believe she said, in 2010. So it's been going on for a while. So if you have even $5 or $500 or $5,000, please give.
Thank you.
Yes, and I think Jim deserves some credit. I believe Jim is the person that brought you here.
Good morning. Thank you for doing this. I think it's very important. So you had Grace S. on the screen for Montana, and you said you won the case. And what you said is that they have to consider fossil fuels before they make changes. So here we go back to this same thing again. How indeed is this not another pat on the head? And who follows that up? Who makes sure that they do that? Is this what your organization does and follows up with more cases, or who keeps them in line so that they do consider that they consider the fossil fuel?
Thank you. The answer is, as you guessed, we do and the courts do. So a lot of litigation to accomplish large structural ends does not happen in a one and done. There is an initial declaration of rights. Courts tend to not want to interfere with the other branches of government too hard, too quickly, right? They have a lot of respect for the other branches, and they try to give them opportunities to do it right. And that's why it matters that the youth have already tried all of this and the government has had so long to fix it. So now we've got something big. We've got a declaration from a court. It's legally binding, okay? And once you've got a legally binding declaration, as you inferred, you can go back to court if the government keeps